It's 1968, a Hollywood party in the hills above Los Angeles. Crystal glasses, cigarette smoke, laughter that costs money. A man stands near the far wall, alone. He doesn't mingle. He doesn't smile. His face looks like it was carved out of the Pennsylvania hillside with a pickaxe. Dark eyes, deep lines, a jaw that has never once trembled. He is 47 years old. He has fought in a world war. He has crawled on his hands and knees through tunnels of coal. He has buried his father. He has buried his poverty. He has buried every person who ever told him no. And tonight, a young director, 28 years old, 3 movies in, walks up to him at this party and says the words that will define both their legacies forever. But here's the thing. What Charles Bronson says back is only 4 words. And when he says them, every single person in that room goes silent. Not because of the words, because of the man saying them. And what that man has already survived to be standing there at all. Let me take you back to the beginning. Because you cannot understand this moment without understanding the darkness that came before it. Ehrenfeld, Pennsylvania, 1930. There is no electricity in this house. There is barely enough food. There are 15 children crammed into a structure that the rest of America would call a shack. The father is a coal miner. The mother is exhausted. The winters are brutal. Charles Bukinski is born the 11th of those 15 children. He does not own a single piece of clothing that belongs to him. He wears his older sister's hand-me-down dresses to school. The other children laugh. He does not react. He learns early that silence is a kind of armor. His first language is Lithuanian. He does not speak English fluently until his teenage years. The teachers call on him and he stares back at them, not out of defiance, out of sheer survival instinct. Say nothing. Give them nothing. Then, when Charles is 10 years old, his father dies. He is the man of the house now. 10 years old. He does not go to school that week. He goes down into the mine. Understand what the mine is. It is not a metaphor. It is a real place. A shaft cut into the belly of a Pennsylvania mountain where the air tastes like iron and the ceiling is 3 feet above your head. You crawl. You dig. You breathe coal dust until it lives in your lungs like a permanent resident. Charles works the mine for years. He loads coal into carts for pennies. His hands split open, his back bends, but his face stays flat. His eyes stay hard. He is learning something the Hollywood directors will never understand about him. He is learning what it feels like to have absolutely nothing to lose. Then the war comes. Charles Bukinski enlists. He becomes a tail gunner on a B-29 Superfortress. He flies 25 combat missions over the Pacific. 25. Every single one of those missions is a coin flip between living and dying. He lands every time. He never talks about it afterward. When the war ends, he comes home to Pennsylvania. He looks at the mine. He looks at his hands. And for the first time in his life, he makes a choice that is not about survival. It is about escape. He moves to Philadelphia. He washes dishes, he picks onions, he paints houses, he does whatever keeps him off the street. Then, almost by accident, he stumbles into a theater workshop. He stands in the back. He watches these people, educated people, city people, pretend to be other people. And something shifts in him. Not ambition, not vanity, just one pure and desperate thought. If I can do this, I never have to go back. He auditions. He is terrible. His accent is thick. His movements are stiff. He does not know the language of theater. But he shows up every single day. Because showing up is the one thing the coal mine taught him absolutely. He gets better. Then he gets good. Then he moves to New York. Then he gets his first small role. Then he moves to Hollywood, changes his last name to Bronson, and starts appearing in films as the tough guy in the background. That is his role for 15 years. The face behind the lead actor, the extra with the interesting stare. He is never the hero. He is never the name on the poster. He is just the man in the corner with the eyes that make you nervous. And the studios are perfectly comfortable keeping him there. Which brings us back to 1968, the party in the Hollywood Hills. His name is not famous yet in America. In Europe, it is a different story. The French have been putting his face on magazine covers for 3 years. They call him Le Sacré Monstre, the sacred monster. They see what American studios refuse to see, that this face, this silence, this absolute refusal to perform charm, it is more compelling than any handsome lead actor working. But in Hollywood, he is still just a character actor, still a background face. And the young director at this party knows it. He walks up to Bronson with a drink in his hand. He is the kind of man who has never been truly poor, the kind who learned confidence in a classroom instead of a coal shaft. He looks Bronson up and down. "Charlie, when are you going to accept that you're washed up? You had your moment. It's over." The room gets quiet. People turn. They wait. Because when someone speaks to Charles Bronson that way, the air changes. Something ancient and dangerous arrives in his eyes. Something that has nothing to do with acting. He looks at the director. He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't move a muscle in his face. He just says 4 words. "My moment hasn't started." That's it. He turns. He walks away. He takes a sip of his drink. And the entire room stays silent. Not because the words were clever, but because everyone in that room realizes, looking at this man's back as he walks away, that he absolutely believes it. With every single cell of his body. He is not performing confidence. He is not posturing. He has simply stated a fact. 3 years later, that director's newest film opens to mild reviews and disappears in 2 weeks. And in 1974, Charles Bronson stands in a New York alleyway at the age of 53 and films the final scene of Death Wish. Hollywood told him the film was too violent, too dark. American audiences wouldn't accept a silent, aging vigilante as a hero. The studios pass, multiple times. Bronson takes the role anyway. When the director asks him why, he answers without blinking, "Because I want to kill bad guys." The film opens, the audience erupts, not polite applause, standing ovations, people cheering in movie theaters across the country. Because they are not watching an actor. They are watching a man who has actually absorbed every dark thing the world can throw at a human being and come out the other side still standing. Still silent, still absolutely unbowed. Death Wish becomes a cultural phenomenon. It defines a genre. It launches a franchise. And at 53 years old, Charles Bronson becomes the highest paid actor in the world, not in America, in the world. #1 at the box office in France, Italy, Germany, Japan. In Italy they call him Il Brutto, the ugly one, and they mean it as the highest possible praise, because his face is not the face of privilege. It is the face of everyone who has ever worked with their hands and been told they don't belong. But wait, here's where the story gets even more remarkable. Behind the stone face and the ice-cold stare was a man of absolute and ferocious loyalty. His wife, Jill Ireland, an actress, beautiful, brilliant, his partner in every sense. They move through Hollywood together, this odd, fierce couple. The quiet man from the coal mines and the woman who matches him in every room. In 1984, Jill is diagnosed with breast cancer. Charles Bronson does not issue a statement. He does not hire a publicist. He does not make a film about it. He simply stops. He sits down next to his wife. And he does not leave. For years he is her guard, her advocate, her constant. He uses his name and his money to fund research. He uses his voice, the one he almost never uses, to speak publicly about the disease, to beg people to take it seriously. She passes in 1990. He never discusses it in interviews. He never cries on camera. He never turns her death into a career moment. He carries it the way the coal mine trained him to carry everything, silently, internally, with his spine straight. Into his 60s and 70s, he keeps working. He does not take meetings at fancy restaurants. He does not attend galas. He lives on his ranch in Vermont, far from the industry that finally gave him his due 2 decades too late. He refuses almost every interview. When he does speak, he speaks in sentences of 5 words or fewer. Journalists leave his presence feeling like they have just met something older and more solid than the entertainment industry deserves. In 2003, Charles Bronson passes away at the age of 81. Pneumonia, quietly, on his own terms. Hollywood pauses, then moves on, because Hollywood always moves on, but the audiences don't. Every film in the revenge vigilante genre that has dominated cinema for 50 years, Taken, John Wick, Man on Fire, The Equalizer, every single one of them exists because Charles Bronson stood in a New York alleyway at 53 and proved that audiences don't want perfect. They want real. The blueprint he drew still prints money today. And somewhere in a Hollywood party in 1968, a young director said 4 words to him, and he answered with 4 words back. "My moment hasn't started." From a boy who wore his sister's clothes to school. From a 10-year-old in a coal shaft. From a tail gunner who flew 25 missions and never told anyone he was scared. From a man who spent 15 years as the face in the background before the world finally looked directly at him and understood what it was seeing. You don't need the right start. You don't need the right face. You don't need the right accent. You need the mind and the will to come out of it. Keep going. Work in silence. Let it speak when it's ready. Pass it on. A black and white photograph. 1974. Charles Bronson on the streets of New York, shirt open, jaw set, eyes looking just past the camera, like he's already seen whatever you're afraid of. Silence is a source of great strength. Grit lasts forever. If this story moved you, subscribe, hit the bell, drop a comment with one word that describes Charles Bronson, and share this with someone who needs to hear it today.